Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you all like it, please like and subscribe, and hope you all enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day.
Open your hand. Shut. Heads. Folks, we're going to be doing our actual demonstration at 11. You are in the right spot for that. We're just doing a safety inspection first.
Guys, come on over here.
Yeah.
Humble in the audience. All right, welcome to Fort Dobbs. Have any of you folks been here before?
No.
All right, how many of you have watched a firing demo before and listened to me flap my gums about it? Can you come up here for me, please? I'm gonna have you do it for me. I don't want to talk this morning. Come on. All right, fine. All right, so gang, you're getting ready to watch a firing demonstration. We're gonna show you folks how the soldiers in the 18th century serving at Fort Dobbs used their muskets. Now, to begin, let's talk about who these guys were. The North Carolina Provincial Soldiers are North Carolinians who are joining the Army, the North Carolina Army, to defend North Carolina from attacks, primarily from French allied Native Americans. Now, who can tell me about a Native American tribe in the 18th century that was in this region?
Cherokee.
Very good, the Cherokee way out to the west. The Cherokee were our allies at the beginning of this conflict. Does anybody know of another tribe in this region?
Watauga.
The what?
Watauga.
Watauga?
Yeah.
That's a town in the Cherokee Nation. That's a good answer. No, they're out way out west. How about the river just south of us? Catawba. That river is named after the Catawba Nation. They both are our allies. The Tuscarora in the east, there's only a few families left here. They'd mostly moved to New York, but they are our allies. Who do you think the French allies might have been? Crickets. How about the Shawnee? Has everybody heard of the Shawnee? The Shawnee lived way up in Ohio. How about the Miami? They also lived way up in the Ohio country. The Mingo, the Lenape, the Delaware, the Seneca, Wyandottes, Ottawas. There's tons of French allies. We only have a few down here in the south. Now, the soldiers are raised to defend the frontier from these attacks, but the General Assembly of North Carolina only saw fit to raise 50 soldiers to cover an area that was 8,000 square miles. They cared very deeply for the people on the frontier of North Carolina, right? Now, these soldiers ideally would get uniforms. They didn't get uniforms until the middle of the summer of 1755, and most of them only received a coat and a pair of knee breeches. Everything else they had to provide by themselves. These soldiers were eventually trained to do things like march, because you have to learn how to march before you can learn how to shoot. So you can learn how to stand and maneuver. And when they're training in close order like this. Sergeant,
Sir.
will you maneuver them a bit?
Yes, sir.
All right. First, they have to learn how to stand correctly. The soldier's going to stand very straight, up and down, shoulders back, stomach in, knees slightly bent, feet slightly apart, so your heels are slightly apart. toes pointed slightly out at an angle so you're very comfortable. And your head turned slightly to the right with your left eye over the center of your body, because when given commands, the sergeant is on the right of the line. It helps you with maneuvering. These guys are wheeling. They're turning their line about. They will also be able to do things like turn the line while they're standing. They can face to the left, face to the right, face to the right again. They can about face, okay? And then you can march. They can march at different speeds. And this is all done like this, so when they go into combat, they can actually spread out and still operate like a unit. Once they get those things fairly down pat, North Carolina troops weren't really well known for being amazing, but they were pretty good. They got the job done. Once you're able to do this stuff, you're given a musket. The muskets North Carolina received in 1755 from the British government were Dutch muskets. And Britain, like many nations, bought tens of thousands of guns from the Dutch. Now they are flintlocks. That means they use a flint and a steel to fire. They are muzzle loading. Everything has to go down the muzzle of the gun to fire it. We're going to do a couple more. He's got to keep drilling them. They're pretty rusty. It's been a long summer. Now, a bit about the uniforms. Now, I said that we ideally got uniforms, being a coat and a coat and breeches. You see a couple of them. One of them, no. The sergeant and Private Kane have blue knee breeches. That's what they all should get, but they didn't really in all reality. The coat was provided by Virginia. It's a nice wool coat that's heavy. It'll last a long time. It's got lapels that you can button over so you're nice and snuggly in the winter. You can let the skirts down so your legs are snuggly in the winter, and it's going to last a while, and it's pretty. Now, I think that the sergeant is going to take them through the loading process. These guys, the first step is to put the gun cradled in your arm so you can handle it very nicely. It's nice and rested. You're in control. So you can reach your hand down in front of your body, retrieve a cartridge, which is a tube of paper containing a musket ball and a pre-measured amount of gunpowder. You bring it up to the corner of your mouth, then rip the top off of the cartridge, exposing the gunpowder. You pour it into a little pan on the side of the gun. You then shut the pan, flip the gun around, so you can put the whole rest of everything down in the barrel. And then, oh, I'm jumping ahead of them, sorry.
We're doing it a few times, sir.
All right.
They had too much rum last night. We're doing it a few times.
Okay. So they're now putting the cartridge into the barrel. They're not actually doing it. They're just practicing right now. Then they have to draw the ramrod out. It's a big metal stick so they can shove the cartridge and the ball all the way to the breech of the gun. Some soldiers are much better than others. Now they are pushing the cartridge down to the breech, and they will take the ramrod back out of the gun and get ready to put it home where it belongs. When he says return rammers, they're going to bring the gun up like this with the rammer in its proper position, and from here they can get ready to fire the gun, they can march, they can put it back to shoulder, they can put it in different positions. There's all kinds of possibilities. Here they're putting it back to shoulder, and I think they're going to run through the loading procedure again, probably a couple more times, as the sergeant said. Just to take a minute, does anybody have any questions real quick? Everyone knows all the things. Yes, ma'am?
How large is the charge?
If you're familiar with propellant loads, it's 120 grains of gunpowder. These guns are 80 caliber. They are firing a ball that is about 3/4 of an inch in diameter and weighs close to 1 ounce. And it's nice soft lead that squishes when it hits things.
Oh, question.
Yes.
Do you actually have the lead here?
We do have musket balls in the fort that you can look at. They are not going to be shooting that because the neighbors would tend to get very upset when we shoot live rounds here. We don't want them shooting back. Now,
Yeah, watch out.
just a quick word about the accuracy of these weapons. Now, we have probably all heard that you can't hit the broadside of a barn with a British gun, and it is a flat-out lie. They don't know what they're talking about, and I'm very, very serious about this. When you are rested, your heart is just beating normally, your breathing is in control, you're not under any stress, and you can line your gun up and aim it. You can hit a target with one of those with a little practice, roughly the size of a man's abdomen at 100 yards. It's actually not that hard to do. There's a couple guys on YouTube that do have demonstrations of that. The problem is, in combat, men suddenly become really incapable of hitting targets. They're under tremendous amounts of stress. It is not the gun that's the problem in the equation. It is the human being behind the trigger. The human is the one that can't hit the target, not the gun. Are you loading yet?
I think they might be ready.
All right.
You think they're ready?
Now, if these guys were not so rusty, they should be able to load and fire these guns in 20 seconds. British soldiers got a lot more training and they could do that in 15 seconds. 4 rounds in 1 minute, hitting targets accurately. These guys are not held to the same standards. I would actually ask you guys to time them, but I don't think they're going to be up to snuff today. I don't want to be that disappointed in my men.
Uncap cartridge.
So you can see them walking through these steps very slowly. And again, in combat, you're going to be able to do this very quickly because you've developed a great deal of muscle memory. So again, they're inserting the cartridge with the gunpowder at the bottom, the musket ball at the top.
Ram down your cartridge. Turn your rammer.
When he gives the command to present, the guns will be leveled. You may wish to put your fingers on your ears to dampen the noise. Now, were they better practiced, they should have been able to do that all at once. So now we're going to see how fast they can do this on their own without individual commands. Now, during the battle at Fort Dobbs that occurred on February 27, 1760, the soldiers who had exited the fort were engaging their enemy, the Cherokee Nation, who were at war with us at that point. They were firing not just a single musket ball. This is a very, very close-range battle. They were being ambushed by a much larger group of people, and their guns were loaded with a musket ball and 7 buckshot. You can imagine the devastating impact that would make on a group of people charging at you. It is. And you don't have to really aim as much. Now, sometimes misfires happen. It's a little bit humid out here, and gunpowder loves to absorb humidity. And it loves to absorb humidity so that it doesn't work. Gunpowder's a pain in the rear.
Yep.
It also produces what's called fouling. It is a thick, gooey residue that's left behind, and it can gum the action of the gun up. It can block the channels that allow it to fire. You can also have your flint break or get so dull it will not produce sparks. There's a number of things that will cause a gun to misfire. Now, I think we're all done here. Next, we're going to be working on the small cannon called a swivel gun, because it's a really creative name because the gun swivels, right? It's also called a half-pounder because at longer ranges it can fire a half-pound solid iron shot. I'm gonna give my lungs a break for a second, okay? All right, I'm gonna walk through you guys and up here. So. When you guys are up here, I need you to move no farther forward than